Hi everyone, my name is Mufokeng Lehlohonolo. I am subject advisor for mathematics grade 8 and 9, and I'm from Thabo Mofutanyane based in Bethlehem. Alright, today I'm going to do geometry of straight lines for grade 8. Most of the things are the basics that I'm going to deal with because according to the objectives, we have to recognize and describe pairs of angles formed by the perpendicular lines, formed by the intersecting lines, by parallel lines cut by a transversal, and we also have to solve problems involving those angles formed by those pair of lines. But because of time, I'm just going to do the intersecting lines, the angles formed by the intersecting lines. And as I've indicated, they are only just going to be the basics because the work for grade 8 is more on perpendicular lines and parallel lines cut by transversal lines. So due to time factor, we will be only dealing with intersecting lines. All right, and then let's go on now. Firstly, I've tried to actually look into the issue of vocabulary. All right. The line segment, let's look into the line segment. The line segments which join together at the vertex to form an angle are known as the arms. So you'll also remember that the line segments are dealt in detail in grade 7, whereby learners from grade 7 have to define the line segment, your rays, and so forth. All right, so today we are just going to look into the line segments that are actually forming the angles. All right, and then this is the point, and then the angle is formed from a point by these two arms. Right, so that point in which the angle is formed is referred to as the vertex. Right, and then this arc, it shows where the angle we are referring to, because at this vertex we are actually having two angles. We are having the angle outside the two arms. We also have this angle which is between the arms. So this arc actually shows us where the angle that we are talking about. All right, and then the angle that is formed there is angle B. Right, and then it is formed by the arm AB as well as the arm BC. Right, and then another thing that we need to know is that for the angle to be formed, those two arms that we are talking about, they are actually starting at 0, whereby the angle is not formed by then. The degree of the angle by then is 0 degrees. So for us to have an angle formed, we must have two arms, of which one arm will be actually stationary and the other arm will be moving. So at this point now we are having the arm BC, which will be our stationary arm. And then we are also having the arm AB. And at this point in time, you cannot be able to see that we are having two arms. That is why I've actually started by highlighting the arm BC, and then there is the arm AB, which is a movable arm. Right. So here is the diagram in which we are now having the angle formed, because I've indicated that AB is our movable arm, and the line segment BC is our actually stationary arm. Right. And then the other thing that we need to know is how to label the angles correctly. That is one of the key point that the learners missed when it comes to geometry. We need to know how to label the angles correctly. So there are three ways in which angles between the arms are labeled, and that will be shown below. Right. We are having diagram, the first diagram on our left. It is more similar with the diagram that is between. The only diagram that is different, it is the third diagram on the right hand side. Right. Now, this is how we actually label the angle. The first way in which we can label the angle, the first thing is by using a single letter where the angle, the letter where the angle is formed. Right. As you can see here, the angle between arm AB and the angle between arm AB and arm BC is labeled as angle B. So if you have this kind of an angle, you can label it as angle B. Right. Another way of labeling the very same angle is by using the letters of the arm, ABC or CAB. So the angle between arm AB and BC can also be labeled as angle ABC, angle ABC, or we can say it is angle CABA. Right. And then the other way of labeling the angle is whereby we are using the subscripts. We are using the subscript whereby at the point where the angle is formed, we are having more than one angle. So to be specific on which angle we are talking about, we can also use the transcript. But again, we can also use the two methods that I have talked about to label that particular angle if we don't want to actually use the subscript. Right. So in this case, we are having the angle B1 as well as the angle B2. So the angle between arm AB and arm BC is labeled as angle B2. Right, we have used the subscript at because we are having two angles at that point. In fact, we are having more than two angles at that point. So we must be specific as to which angle are we referring to. Right. The other thing is the angle between arm AB and arm BD is labeled as angle B1. Right. So those two angles can also be labeled as, for angle B2, we can label angle B2 as angle ABD, or we can use angle B, and we can also label angle B1 as angle BC. Since we are exposed to the issue of labeling the angle using the letters of the arm. So this is how you actually label the angle. And the other key important thing is that the angles are measured using the instrument called the protractor. So the protractor is used to actually measure the angles between the arms. Right. Now, coming to the next part. The next part, that's whereby we are going to name the angles. Right. We are actually having the correct the correct or the specific names that we are used for particular kind of angles. Right. Let's have a look at this diagram now. We are having the diagram representing angle A, B, C, or we can say it is angle B, or we can say it is angle C, B, A. Right. So as you can see this diagram, it represents the angle between 0 and 90. So the angles that are actually between the range of 0 and 90, you'll have 45 degrees, you'll have 56 degrees. They are between 0 and 90. Right. So let's have a look at what kind of angle is this. Right. The name of this angle, it is referred to as an acute angle. An acute angle is the angle that is greater than 0 degrees but less than 90 degrees. So whatever angle that is between 0 and 90, it is called an acute angle. Like I've made an example, if we are having 89, 89 is between 0 and 90, therefore 89 it falls under acute angle. We are also having angle 5 degrees. 5 degrees is between 0 degrees and 90 degrees. Therefore, those are the examples of an acute angle. Right. And then let's go on about naming of the angles. The second angle that we are going to look into, it is the angle that is formed by two lines that are perpendicular to each other. If the lines are perpendicular to each other, that simply means the angle formed between is 90 degrees. And instead of using the arc, we are now using a square like to represent the 90 degrees angle. So every time when you see the two lines being indicated as perpendicular to each other, please note that they are actually intersecting at an angle of 90 degrees. Right. Now, what is the name of that angle which is equivalent to 90 degrees? That angle is referred to as a right angle. Right. A right angle is equal to 90 degrees. It is exactly 90 degrees. Remember, previously we have talked about acute angle, and then we said acute angle, it is between 0 and 90 degrees. So the angle that is exactly equal to 90 degrees, we refer to it as the right angle. So a right angle is equal to 90 degrees. If you check arm AB is actually perpendicular to BC. I've actually alluded to the fact that if the line segments are actually intersecting at an angle of 90 degrees, they are referred to as being perpendicular to each other. This is written as AB perpendicular to BC. That is the correct notation that we use to represent the lines that are perpendicular to each other, the lines that are actually intersecting at an angle of 90 degrees. All right. Another pair that we are going to talk about another pair that we are going to look into, it is this kind of an angle. If you look at this angle, it is more or less over 90 degrees. All right. So let's have a look at what kind of angle is this. All right. This is the angle which is greater than 90 degrees but less than 180 degrees. Right. This kind of an angle is called an obtuse angle. An obtuse angle is an angle which is greater than 90 degrees but less than 180 degrees. Then we can have an example of an obtuse angle as we will be having the 175 degrees, we will be having the 92 degrees, it is already past 90 degrees. We will be having 179 degrees. They are all forming part of obtuse angles. So those are numerical value for the obtuse angle. Right. And then the other thing, it is we are going to look to another kind of angle formed by two arms. Right. At this diagram, we are having just two arms that are seen to be straight, that are seem to be forming a straight line. So the angle of this nature, we refer to it as a straight line angle or a straight angle. A straight angle is exactly equal to 180 degrees. Right. So the angle is formed at the letter B as we indicated by an arc. Right. So it is equivalent to 180 degrees. Right. So and then we are also having another kind of an angle which is more than 180 degrees but less than 360 degrees. So that kind of an angle we refer to as a reflex angle. But as you can see here, we are having two diagrams that are representing that angle. The other one, if you can look into, it is greater than 180 degrees but less than 270 degrees. The other one, it is greater than 270 degrees but less than 360 degrees. So basically, when we are talking about this kind of an angle, we are saying it is an angle which is greater than 180 degrees but less than 360 degrees. Right. So the name of that angle we refer to as the reflex angle. So the reflex angle is an angle which is greater than 180 degrees but less than 360 degrees. It is between 180 degrees and 360 degrees. So both are representing the reflex angle. Then the example of such angles, we will be having the likes of 181, which is greater than 180. We can have 200 degrees. 200 degrees is also greater than 180 degrees but less than 360. We can have 270 degrees. We can have 300 degrees. They are all examples of the reflex angle. Right, and then going forward again, we are actually having the last, I think that is the last kind of an angle. This kind of an angle, it is whereby it is formed when the two arms are at one place. You can even not notice that we are actually having two arms when this kind of an angle is formed. So the angle formed here, it is 360 degrees. So if you see an angle which is indicated like this, then you know it is the 360 degrees. But if we cannot have this arc in the form of red color, if we cannot be able to see this arc, notice that the angle formed there, it is 0. Therefore, there is no angle that is formed because the arm AB is not yet moved. Remember, we are having two arms, the one that is stationary and the other one that is movable. The movable arm is the one that is actually forming the angle. The movement of that arm, it gives us the magnitude of a particular angle. So in this case, that arm has moved around a point up to the position where it was. So such angle is referred to as a revolution angle. All right, so let's have a look at this. Here it is. The revolution angle, it is angle that is equal to 360 degrees. Right, and if you can have a look at all these kinds of angles that I have talked about, you will realize that there are three angles that are having the exact value. The other angles are formed between either between 0 and 90, between 90, 180, between 180 and 360. But we are actually having three angles that are having the exact value. The first one that we have talked about, it is the right angle. The right angle, the value of the right angle, we know it is actually 90 degrees. And then we are also having the exact angle in the form of a straight line. A straight line angle, it gives us an angle equivalent to actually 360 degrees. In fact, it gives us the magnitude of 180 degrees. And then the last one with exact value, it is revolution angle. The revolution angle is actually equivalent to 360 degrees. Right. We can recap on the kind of angles that we have talked about that are formed by the intersecting lines, the simple angles, of course. Right, the first one we have said, we have talked about the angle which is between 0 and 90. And the angle which is between 0 and 90, it is referred to as an obtuse angle. Right, and then we are also having the angle which is exactly 90 degrees, and that angle is formed by the perpendicular lines. That angle is a right angle is equals to 90 degrees. We have also again talked about the angle which is between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. Such angles are referred to as the obtuse angles. Right, and then we have also talked about a straight line angle or a straight angle. A straight angle or a straight line angle, its magnitude is 180 degrees. And then we are also having the angle formed between 180 degrees and 360 degrees. Such angles we referred to as the reflex angles. Right, and then the last angle that we have talked about, it is the revolution angle. The revolution angle is actually equivalent to 360 degrees. Right. Now, on assessing this, you will realize again that the learners, you will be assessed on recognizing a particular figure, and you relate that particular figure with the correct range or the correct angle it is equals to. So in other words, you can be given an angle, and being given an angle, you must be able to draw the diagram of that angle. You can be given the size of an angle, and if you are given a size of an angle, then you can be able to again draw the diagram, or you can be able to give the name of that particular angle. Or you can be able to, you can be given a diagram, and by mere looking at that diagram, you must be able to tell what kind of angle is that. Right, this is how you recognize the angles. And then secondly, you must be able to give the name of that particular angle. And those questions that I'm referring to are actually the simple level 1 questions. Right. Now, let's actually go to the activities regarding whatever that I've talked about. Right. This is the first activity now. The first activity, we need to complete the table below by just drawing the diagram, or by actually giving the size of the angle related to the diagram given, or drawing the diagram and giving the angle related to that angle. Actually being given the name of the angle, and then you have to actually provide the diagram, whatever diagram that you can actually present and representing that particular angle. And then again, you can give an example of an angle related to that particular angle. Whether you are given, you give that angle in the form of a range, or you give the exact value that will be an example of that particular angle. Remember, I've indicated that we are actually having the angles that are having the exact value. So in the situation whereby the angle doesn't have an exact value, it will depend as to what the question wants. But if the question is like this, like if we look into question 2, we will have to look into the issue of the range, or even the example will suffice. Right, now I'm just going to give you about 5 minutes looking at this, which is based on the presentation, and then you provide the answer for number 1, the diagram, as well as the name of the angles. For number 2, you'll have to provide the angle for this diagram as well as the name of that angle. And then lastly, you will have to provide an example of an angle or the range, the diagram, if you are given the name of the angle. So I will just give you 5 minutes to look into this activity, and then after 5 minutes, then we will actually look into the answers. Right, I think the 5 minutes has lapsed. Now we can have a look at the answers for this activity. Right. We are given the angle 90 degrees, and we need to draw the diagram, and we need to also provide the name of the angle. Now let's reveal the answers. Right. For 90 degrees, the diagram will be more or less like this. Right. It doesn't matter in which way did you actually draw your diagram. You can rotate your diagram the way you want to rotate it, as long as it shows that there is this angle which is denoted like this. In other words, the 90 degrees, which is denoted like this. Whether your diagram has faced down or it is facing the left hand side, it doesn't matter, as long as it is the correct diagram. Right. And then the name of the angle, it is a right angle because it is exactly 90 degrees. Right. So these are the answers for number 1. And then coming to number 2. For number 2, we are actually having this, we were given this diagram, and we need to provide the angle as well as the name of the angle formed. So this angle, as we can look into, it is the angle which is actually greater than 90 degrees. It is actually greater than 90 degrees. So if we look into the angle, it is actually not an acute angle. It must be a reflex angle. This is a reflex angle because it is actually greater than 180 but less than 360 degrees. Right. So the one, if we have to talk about the one which is inside, it must be a reflex angle because it is greater than 90 degrees but less than 180 degrees. So the one that is out there, it is actually not an acute angle, but it is a reflex angle. Right. And then going to number 3. Number 3, we are actually having we were given an acute angle, and we need to provide a diagram. So the diagram, here is the diagram which shows an acute angle, and that acute angle is actually between 0 and 90. So this diagram, it shows that this angle is between 0 and 90, or we can say it is greater than 0 but less than 90, right? Instead of giving the range, sometimes you can also give in the example of the example in the form of an angle. Like for instance, you can even provide 300 as an answer for number 2, and for number 3 you can even provide 75 degrees as an answer. That will be also correct. All right, now go into activity 2. The activity 2, I will just give you 2 minutes at least to complete the activity 2, and then we will be actually wrapping up. Right, I think we can now have a look at the answers to activity 2. All right, these are the expected answers. A straight line angle is equal to 180 degrees, is exactly 180 degrees, and then 181 degrees angle is a reflex angle, because this is the angle which is between 180 and 360 degrees. So definitely it is a reflex angle. And then for number 3, we are having, we were given the diagram with the angle which is equivalent to 110 degrees, which shows that it has just passed the 90 degrees angle, and therefore it is between 90 degrees as well as 180 degrees. So the correct answer to this question will be an obtuse angle. Right. In order to wrap up, let me indicate that all the things that I have talked about are just the basics to what the learners have actually to learn for grade 8. Because if you look into the issue of the objectives, if we go back into the objectives, you will realize that learners have to recognize and describe pairs of angles formed by this. So I've actually indicated that we are just going to focus on intersecting lines before, so that learners can be actually conversant with the issue of how the angles are formed, the vocabulary in terms of the line segments and so forth. So more of the work will be addressed from the perpendicular lines to the parallel lines cut by a transversal line. And I hope I will be continuing with this presentation on the 16th, if I'm not mistaken. On the 16th of August, I will be here presenting again the very same topic. I will be actually continuing with the topic from grade 8 and also the same topic in grade 9. With that, Wes, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.